Hello everybody, I'm back. Today is glazing day. I really love doing this one because there's so many options to use our glazes for, but I'm not only gonna just show you our glazes, I'm gonna show you how to tint our glazes, how to custom make glazes, and some of the questions that come up with customers when dealing with glazes. So when you come on, let me know who you are and make sure you put your shop name in there so that I can see. I gotta make sure I'm following all of you guys, so make sure your shop names are in here when you watch the video. Okay, well once again, I'm Amy with AJ's Vintage Designs, and let's get started with glazing. Okay, so I'm gonna be showing you several options. And the first one I'm gonna do is the one we get the most questions about, and that would be our black glaze. Our black glaze looks blue, and that is one of the biggest things. If you have a customer who orders from you online, or they're in your shop and you're not there and they see this, they're gonna be wondering what's up because it looks blue. This is our black glaze. Yes, it does look blue. It's not a true black. It does dry to a dark charcoal, but I'm gonna show you how to tint it to get a true black. Hey, Shelly. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start off with, like I said, the black glaze, and then we're gonna move into showing you some of the other metallic-y glazes, and then I'm gonna be showing you a cool technique that you can do with the Van Dyke glaze, a technique for that. And then I'm gonna show you how to custom make your own glazes. If you have a custom color or your customer wants a specific color, you can actually make a glaze really easy. So I'm gonna show you all of that stuff today. So let's go ahead and get started. I still don't have internet. I'm using a Wi-Fi card to do these lives. The storm took out our pole on our street. A tree came down and took out the cable pole. So we haven't had TV or internet this is our 5th day. And the pole is still sitting out there. So I'm using my Wi-Fi card for all my lives. So I'm gonna try to keep it short. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start off with the black glaze. I'm gonna pour some into a dish, and you're gonna see it's blue. And that is one of the biggest questions I get about the glazes, is how do I get a true black glaze? And as you can see, if you haven't looked at this yet, this is a blue. But like I said, it will dry darker, and I'm gonna demonstrate it on a board here. I'm gonna put just a little bit into a cup. A little goes a long ways. I just put like 2 little teaspoons in there. That's all I put in there. And I'm gonna show you it by itself, and then we're gonna tint it. Okay, I'm gonna bring you down so you can see. Hello, I can see a few people popping on. Okay, so this is French, move these out of the way just real quick. Okay, so this is French linen. Maybe so you can see it. I'm gonna be working on this corner up here. This is not sealed. Normally when we do glazes, you have the option. If you seal it with a satin or a flat sealer first, you have more control and more ability to wipe it most of it back and just leave it exactly where you want it. If you put it on an unsealed piece, then your porous paint is gonna grab some of those colors, and you're gonna have more of a colored effect. However, if it's too bold for you, you still have the option of taking a baby wipe to it and wiping it back even more. So you can seal it first, or you can leave it unsealed and then put your glaze on. That's up to you. What I like to do is I like to seal my pieces first. Granted, this is not sealed, but that's because I want you to be able to see it. But I seal my pieces first, and then I go in and do my glazing, because glazes don't have to be sealed. So I've taken care of that step by pre-sealing my entire piece, and then I go in and do my glazes, and then I'm done. I don't have to do any sealing after that. So let's just show you real quick. I'm gonna show you this black glaze all by itself, and by the end of this live, it will have dried enough so you can see its true colors. But this is where people kind of panic when they see our black. See how it looks blue? I'm doing it on French linen. No, excuse me, vintage duck egg. I had French linen on here before. Okay. So see how it's like a blue color? And I'm getting on all those details. This is the most important part. I use glaze primarily to bring out the details. But the nice thing about glaze is it's very translucent, and when you're applying it, you're gonna feel it. I know you can't feel it, but when I'm applying it, it has a slippery feel to it. And that's the nice thing about glaze, is that slippery feel. You have a lot of manipulation time to it, and it's very easy to use. So I'm gonna let that sit there for just a second. I'm gonna grab my paper towel, The longer it sits there on a sealed, on an unsealed piece, the more glaze that will stay behind because I'm letting it soak into the paint a little bit. So you'd be able to do like maybe 2 drawers, and then by the time you get down to the 3rd drawer, you can go back and wipe the other 2 drawers by that time. Okay, you can take a lint-free rag. I'm using shop towels. I like to fold mine a little bit neater so that I have a nice smooth wiping surface. Okay, and then you're gonna wipe it back, and you're gonna wipe it back gently. And if it smears, then you just turn to another side of your rag. And then I'm wiping over my high points. It's leaving that glaze down in my details. There. But it leaves a nice, smooth finish, kind of like a satin finish. Okay, I don't know if you can see the details right there. See how it's a little bit of a blue color? That's gonna dry to be more of a charcoal color, and it will deepen as it dries. But that's the thing. Some people want to have a true black glaze. This glaze dries to a dark charcoal. So here's what we're gonna do. If your customer wants a true black glaze, then you're gonna take a little bit of your caviar and you're gonna tint your glaze. You can tint it as dark as you want it. So I'm gonna put some caviar in here. And I'm gonna stir it up with the glaze. So I'm actually using that black glaze as like a glazing medium. I added my caviar in there. And now can you see it? Now I have a true black glaze. And I'm gonna put it right here. So I'm gonna wipe off this rag, or this brush, and use the same brush. So you don't have to worry, especially if people are doing kitchen cabinets and they want that true black, just have them put a little bit of caviar in it. And there is a benefit to this. The fact that it comes so light, it gives your customers a lot of options. It's hard to lighten up the color of a glaze, but it's easy to darken up the color of a glaze, if that makes any sense. So it gives more versatility. Okay, so look at how dark that is. Let me get that in all those grooves. Because I got that glazing medium in there, it still feels like a glaze. It's got that slippery feel to it. I'm gonna apply it over this whole section here. Granted, normally I don't use a chip brush, but I'm gonna be doing a lot of glazing, and I didn't wanna, you know how short-handed we all are with our brushes right now. So I don't wanna use my brushes and have them sit out during this class. So I'm using a chip brush. Normally I use the Dixie Belle Mini. You can use a foam brush. You can use anything you want. See now, see how dark that is? That is a true black glaze. I just added a little black caviar to it, that's all. And I'm gonna let that sit there for a second, and then we're gonna wipe it back. And you'll see the difference. This is let me move it here. This is already starting to darken up a little bit, but it's still wet. It's gonna, like I said, it's gonna dry to a dark gray. That is a true black. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this back. That is so pretty. I did the vintage duck egg this time because I just wanted to see the color with the black. I like to experiment. I've never done black glaze on vintage duck egg, and I wanted to see it. So I'm using this class as an experiment for myself too, as far as colors. Okay, so see how that is a true black? You can see the details. Now that glaze will dry. I can wipe it back as much as I need to. Now that black glaze is gonna dry. See how dark that is compared to the other? That is a true black glaze. Now, if I decided that I didn't like it, or this is our water base, you can take a baby wipe to it, or you can take a little water. I'm gonna take a little water to it, and I'm gonna show you that if you have an area that got too dark and you don't like it, you can just take a little bit of water and you can wipe it back. So you can control it. See how I'm wiping that back? Just taking a little bit of water. So you don't have to be scared of the glaze. You can wipe it back as long as it's wet and it hasn't set up. You can wipe it back with water. So it's completely gone. Right here is where it was. Completely gone. You just have to take a little bit of water to it. So don't be scared to experiment with the color. And then if you decide you don't like it, just take some water and a rag to it and wipe it all off before it dries, and you're good to go. And I'll look at questions in just a minute. Okay, so that is the black. You have an issue with it, the customer not wanting that light of a color, is have them get a little bit of caviar and put caviar in it. Okay, so next one. We have a lot of options as far as glazes, and I'm going to show you a different board. Okay, put this over here real quick. Just grabbed it. Okay. Now we have all of our little metallic ones. We have our gold shimmer. We have our copper. We have gray, brown. We have our pearlescent, which is my go-to. I use this a lot. And we have the whitewash. I use this one a lot too. But let's do the metallics first, and then I'm gonna show you how to tint them a little bit more or to custom make our own glazes. Now remember, that's a gorgeous color, but these are translucent. You're not gonna get the solid opaque cover like you get with our Moonshine Metallics. These are just very subtle. It's just to give that glow of a color. That's what the glazes are for, is to bring out these details and to give it a glow. Okay, so I have a couple different options here to work it on. So this is the copper. See how translucent that is? So it's different than our Moonshine Metallics. Our Moonshine Metallics have a lot of pigmentations to them. These is just to give us that subtle shimmer. And this is why you'd want to seal your piece first. I want to get it down in those nooks and crannies. Let me get that in there. This is why you want to seal your piece first. Because with this beautiful shimmer of the glaze, you don't want to dull that down by putting a satin on top of it. You really want to keep, you want to really keep this look. And see how I'm just pushing, these are deep crevices, so I'm trying to push it down in the crevices. So I'm pouncing it on. There's a long open time to the glazes too. Now I'm going to wipe it, because I just want it down in those grooves, and I want a subtle shimmer. Okay, so that, and I'm going to wipe it back. That's what I like about the glazes. The glazes are that pop of surprise. You do a piece, and the glaze might not show up until someone's looking at a specific angle, and then they're like, oh wow, look at that sheen. Look at that little, hint of shimmer. So you can leave it in the recessed details, but when you go at an angle, I'm trying to get it in the angle. When you give it an angle, it's going to give a little bit of shimmer to your piece. So you can gently wipe it back, taking away some of that color. I'm being very gentle. I'll still have that shimmer. You can see the difference? You'll still have that shimmer. So even though the glazes are very translucent, they leave a gorgeous, subtle shimmer to your piece. And it's like a pop of surprise when you're looking from a certain color. Let me put the gold, and I'm gonna tint the gold here in just a second. Okay, so let's do the gold one. I'm gonna do the gold one on this one. Actually, I'm gonna do the gold on, I'm gonna do the gold on this one. And then I'm gonna make it even stand out even more by adding some gold digger to it. Okay, the great thing about the glazes, like I said, is they're slippery. They have a nice slippery feel to them. They have a lot of open time. Okay, so I want to get down in those grooves. This has got really deep grooves in this, so I want to get it down in there. I'm using a lot, and I'm going to spread it out. Getting it down in those grooves. Okay, I'm going to spread it up. The gold is like one of my favorites of the metallic ones. So that is very thick. I'm gonna let it sit there for a second, and then we can wipe it back. Like I said, seal your piece first, and then you don't have to seal afterwards, and you can leave this gorgeous shimmer on your piece as a little pop of surprise. So I'm gonna wipe it back. So I got the gold down in my little details, but look at the shimmer. I don't know if you can see it. See that shimmer right there? It's gonna leave a shimmer on your piece. And it's gonna dry, it'll dull in just a little bit, but that shimmer is gorgeous when it dries. So like here, let's say that's not enough gold for me. So let's tint it. Our products work great together, so we can tint anything we want. So I'm gonna put some of the gold shimmer glaze in here, and then I'm gonna give it a little pop. I'm gonna add a little bit of our gold digger, Moonshine Metallic, which is gonna, let me use the spoon again, because I'm not going through so many spoons. And so I'm going to put some gold in it. So I just put a little teaspoon in there. I'm gonna stir it up. So I'm actually using the glaze as a glazing medium. So when some people are like, well, do you have just a regular glazing medium? You can tint and use any of the glazes to create new glazes, and I'm gonna show you another way to create glazes as well. So here I'm popping up that color. So let's say this isn't gold enough. You wipe my brush off. Now I'm gonna show you with the Moonshine Metallic in there. See how I popped that color up just a notch? I still have that slippery feel of the glaze, pushing it down into those details, and then spreading it out smooth. See, that's much more pronounced as far as gold, but not everybody wants that pronounced gold look. That's why the glazes are great, and all of our products are great that they work together. We can customize all of them to fit our customers' needs. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sit there for a little bit, and then get a clean side of the rag. There we go. See how much more of a gold shimmer? So just adding just a tiny, look at the difference. Just adding a tiny bit of Moonshine Metallics, I can bump this up to the next notch as far as like wow factor. For those people who really want a lot of bling. So you can see it right there, the difference between the two. Okay, so don't be afraid to mix. So that is how, I mean, you can do that with the, use Silver Bullet, and you can mix it into the Hi-Ho Silver Glaze and really bump up the glaze on the Silver Bullet. You can even mix them. You can add a little gold to the copper, play, have some fun. Okay, so that is that option. Okay, I'm gonna move this over here. Now, I'm gonna show you the pearlescent. The pearlescent, I always shake mine before I use them. The pearlescent is one that I use a lot, especially if I'm using fluff or drop cloth, sawmill gravy. Those colors, I like them with the pearlescent because it just leaves a polished, more of a commercial look to it. It just gives you that little bit of a wow factor. So this is a pearlescent on top of coffee bean. And all I'm doing is gonna add some shimmer. I don't have to really worry about getting it down into the grooves. I'm just gonna add some beautiful shimmer to my piece. Not adding any color. I'm not adding any color at all. I'm just creating a little shimmer. You can do this with stripes. So if you have like a piece and you want to have subtle stripes, you can do this with the stripes and have every other stripe have the pearlescent glaze on it. But I recommend if you're gonna do that, you would seal your whole piece in a flat. And then I'll look at questions in just a minute. You would do your piece in flat, seal your whole piece in flat, and then go back and tape off your stripes and then do the pearlescent glaze. Because if you had satin next to pearlescent glaze, it's gonna be very subtle difference. But if you went from flat to pearlescent glaze to flat, you could really see the stripes, okay? So let me go ahead and wipe this back. The pearlescent glaze I use a lot. It looks fabulous. I did it on a jewelry armoire on French linen, and it just made it glow. See how I'm wiping that back? I didn't change the color of the coffee bean, but I added, there we go. See the top and the bottom? I just added that sheen. Isn't that beautiful? Now, you know, a whole piece like this, it gives it that beautiful polished look. Now the recessed areas, that's gonna dry. I'm not gonna be able to see that. So you don't have to worry about with the pearlescent glaze, getting it down into nooks and crannies because it's not gonna make a difference. The pearlescent glaze is, look how much I'm wiping this back and still, I mean, that is gorgeous. But the pearlescent glaze isn't gonna do anything for you when it comes to deep crevices and details and that type of stuff. The pearlescent glaze is basically to give your piece that hint of shimmer when it dries. I'm trying to get it in the light there. There you go. It's gonna give your piece a hint of shimmer. I love the pearlescent glaze. I use that, like I said, a lot, especially when I'm using the fluff, drop cloth, and those lighter colors. It kind of just makes it look less country and gives it a nice polished look. Now, the whitewash glaze, we have a ton of ways of creating a whitewash. We have the whitewash glaze. We could also use the Voodoo White Magic, We can also use like fluff or cotton or drop cloth mixed with water, 50-50. All those ways are great ways to get a whitewash look. But this is for if you have a beginner and they don't want to be mixing anything, this is a great option for them to get the whitewash look. Now I'm going to do it right above here. Okay. This whitewash I did at a big buffet, and I absolutely love it. It makes it very easy to do a whitewash because of that slippery feel that it has. And it's hard to describe that slippery feel, but it just makes working with it nice and smooth and easy. Okay, now we're gonna wipe this back. This is the whitewash. But like I said, we have lots of options to get this whitewash look. And I'm doing it on the coffee bean because I actually love whitewash on coffee bean, gravel road, and even caviar. So look at the pronounced whitewash look. The lights want to pick it up. It's very strong. But if that's too dark for you, then what do? We use a little water. So I can mist it with some water, or I'm just going to use some water on my towel here because I don't have my mister with me. Okay, so you can use the water. I'll do it on half of it. And you can really dilute the wash and wipe it back and make it lighter. See how this side's lighter? Just take a little bit of water and wipe it back. Now this board is not sealed, so that paint wants to grab it. So if I want to remove it a lot more, I would just use more water, or I would use a baby wipe. But you have a lot of control over these glazes. So see how I'm using water? And I can lighten it to as light as I want it. But the whitewash is gorgeous on the darker colors. I do love it on caviar and coffee bean. Okay, now I want to show you guys how to mix your own. So let's say you have a customer and they want a glaze, maybe they want a blue glaze, or maybe they want, a specific color. You can custom make any color glaze you want. And I'm gonna set this off to the side. Okay, so let's say they want I'm gonna grab a cobalt blue. Oh, not cobalt blue, because I'm doing that color. Okay, let's do steel magnolias. Actually, amethyst. Okay, I'm gonna make an amethyst glaze. So let's say someone wants a purple glaze. You can make your own by using Dixie Belle's gloss. I have mine in FIFO bottles. Gator hide or satin, you can use them with any of those. Gator hide is great because then it's also extra sealing durabilities. I'm gonna use it in gloss. I'm gonna pour some in there. So you would just mix, I'm basically tinting my gloss. And you can make it as strong as you need. So I'm doing almost 2 parts clear coat to 1 part paint, or you can do 50-50. You just eyeball it. Basically all we're doing is we're just tinting our clear coat to make a glaze. So I'm doing gloss, and I'll also do one with gator hide and a metallic. So you can create your own glaze. This is the gloss, because I want that glossy sheen. The more paint you add to it, the more you kind of dull in the sheen a little bit. So I want it to be nice and watery. Okay, so you can make your own glazes. Glazes, a lot of mediums actually are made using the polyacrylic in them. Okay, so let's use a little brush. Let me wipe this one off. Okay, let's put it on the white. So I just made myself a purple glaze. It still has it has a slippery feeling, but not quite the same as the glaze itself. But having that top coat in there makes it slippery. So that, look at how watery this is, and look at how much pigmentation I have. See that? Okay, let me wipe it back. This is not sealed. That's just fluff on a board. Okay, and then you'd wipe it back. See, I'm using it as a glaze. So you can custom make any color glaze you want just by adding your paint to your top coat. So I just made a purple glaze, okay? And so you can picture, and I'm gonna do it with one of the Moonshine Metallics here so you can really see it with the grooves in this board. So you can wipe back as much as you need. If I decide I need to wipe it back even more, I can add a little bit of water, but it doesn't remove as easy using the clear coats as it does using glazes. So if I don't like this and I add a little bit of water, it is gonna be a little harder to remove, but I can lighten it a bit. So let me put a little bit of water on here so I can lighten it. Or you can use a baby wipe. Baby wipes are great. Okay, so here we go. So I'm taking a little bit of water to it. So you can remove it if you need to, but just know this is leaving a little lint, this rag is, but it still has a purple hue. It doesn't take it back 100%. You'd really have to scrub it. But you can have that subtle purple hue to your piece if you want to. Just apply your glaze and you can wipe it back with a baby wipe or water. And then, I don't know if you can see that the subtle purple. So here, look at how runny that is. Now I can put this in a little dish. I do it a lot. I buy these from the grocery store. They're like little salsa cups. And I will pre-mix up some glaze, and then I'll label it, and I'll pour it in one of these. See how watery that is? I'll pour it in one of these, I'll put the lid on it, and then I'll label it with a little sticky label. I'll label it amethyst glaze. That way when I'm doing projects or if I'm teaching a class, I have some custom made glazes for people to play with, okay? So that is an option. These are very inexpensive. They're called on-the-go cups, and you get them at your local grocery store. And that's what I do. Custom make glazes, and then this will keep for a long time. And so then if you're not finished working on a piece and you need to put it away, then you can pour it into these containers and it'll save. Okay, let me pour this off to the side. Now let me show you the Moonshine Metallics. Now the Moonshine Metallics can be used as a glaze all by themselves. They are a little bit harder to wipe back when using them by themselves. I'm gonna do the Silver Bullet. So it's just a matter of wiping it back quickly. If I'm just gonna apply the Silver Bullet, I can apply the Silver Bullet, but it's not gonna glide like it does with the glazing medium or a top coat in it. It's going to go on a little bit drier, which means it's gonna be a little bit harder to wipe back to get a consistent and very smooth finish to it. But it can be done. So this is the Silver Bullet, and I can wipe it back. But see how it just kind of, it doesn't wipe back completely, but it does leave a beautiful sheen. And you would have to work in a smaller area because this does dry quickly. You can already see my lines up here. It is harder to work with this if you don't mix it as a glaze, but it can be used as a glaze if you're using a small area, then you can wipe it back. But here is if you're doing a larger area and you want to have that strong silver sheen. This time I'm gonna use gator hide. And I'll put the Hi-Ho Silver Glaze in here as well. Okay, I'm gonna put some gator hide in here. And I'm gonna take should find a place to put my brushes. I'm gonna take some of the Moonshine Metallic. I'm gonna put one that doesn't have a clump. I'm just gonna put a big teaspoon in there. I'm gonna stir it up in with that gator hide. That gator hide is going to allow this to glide a little bit smoother, not so dry. Normally I mix it with gloss, but I want to show you that there's other options. So if you're worried about durability, you can mix it with gator hide, which makes it very durable. Okay, so now let's do it up here, right above it. See how it glides on much more like wet, and it's not so dry. It has more of that slip factor. Not quite the slip factor you have when you mix it with a glaze, but it does have some slip factor to it, so it's easier to work with. Okay, now I'm gonna wipe that one back so you can see it right next to the Silver Bullet by itself. You'll see that they give very similar looks. See, glazes are very underutilized. you can get so many different looks with them. Okay, that is it mixed with the gator hide. So more impact here, but less flexibility to work with it. This has more flexibility to work with it. Still gives a beautiful sheen. So that is mixing our own glaze. 50% top coat, doesn't matter what top coat you use. 50% top coat and 50% paint, roughly. Now let me show you the Hi-Ho Silver all by itself. Now remember, if I want to bump up my Hi-Ho Silver, I can just add some silver bullet right to it. But I want you to see this Hi-Ho Silver by itself. Let me wipe off my little chip brush so it doesn't have that gator hide on it. Okay, now I'm just doing the Hi-Ho Silver by itself up here. Now this has, I don't know if you can see the difference. It has a lot more slip factor to it. So my preference is to add silver bullet to the Hi-Ho Silver to have the easiest working time and flexibility, is by mixing the Moonshine Metallics in with the Hi-Ho Silver. And I'm gonna wipe it back. I have a huge open time. So if I'm doing a big piece of furniture, I have more flexibility. But the Hi-Ho Silver by itself is so subtle. See how subtle it is? It's very subtle compared to, this is the gator hide, this is just the Moonshine Metallics by itself. It's much more subtle, so I can, like I said, just put a couple drops of the silver bullet in there and really make it pop. But by using the glaze products as my medium to add the paint to it, to alter it, when you're working on a big piece, you're just gonna have more flexibility, more open time, easier to work with, easier to remove if you need to remove it, the glazing medium, okay? Now I'm gonna show you some techniques. Let me put my lids back on before I spill all this stuff. I'm gonna show you something cool you can do with the Van Dyke glaze. The Van Dyke glaze is the brown. Okay. And I have a big board to show you. Let me get this out of the way. The board takes up the whole table. So, just 1 second. Okay. Now, here's the board. I guess I have to move a little bit more because the board is bigger than all of this. Okay, I think I have enough room now. Okay, here we go. Now here's the board. I'm going to show you a cool technique that I like to do using the glaze. Okay, make sure you can see all of it. Okay, I'm going to be using the Van Dyke glaze for this. Now this piece has been sealed with satin. This is caviar and this is French linen, and I will move it so you can see each one when I do it. But I'm going to be doing this cool technique. It's called frottage. Frottage is, you can use saran wrap. I get the best results. I save my dry cleaning bags that my dry cleaning comes in. I save them and I put them in a big giant bin. So we're going to be doing frottage. It's going to give it kind of a leathery look. Okay, so I'm going to shake up my Van Dyke glaze. And I'm going to, there we go. I'm going to apply it onto this piece. I just did this to an entire coffee bar and the customer loved it. Okay, so you're going to just wipe it on generously. And you'd think the brown would not be something you would be using with the black, but it actually works out perfect. Okay, I'm just going to apply it liberally. Doesn't matter, get it on smooth, you just want to get it on there. And this is a great technique to get kind of that leather look. Or if you have a piece that has flaws, this is going to distract from all those flaws. I'm all about finding ways to hide flaws. Okay, so here we go. This is called frottage. I used to do this on walls, and I just carried it over to my furniture. Okay, so I'm getting a thin coat of, well, actually it's not a thin coat, it's pretty generous. Okay, so I got that on there. I'm not going to let it dry. I am going to, let me tear this bag in half one more time. Okay, I'm going to wad up my bag. I'm going to leave the wrinkles in it. It's Squeeze it nice and tight. I'm gonna leave the wrinkles in it. And I'm gonna lay it right on top of my piece with the wrinkles. Okay? Then I'm gonna take my brush and I'm just gonna push those wrinkles down into that glaze. The more wrinkles, the better the look is going to be. So I'm just pushing I don't wanna use my fingers because then I'm gonna smear it. So I use the brush and push all those wrinkles right down into that glaze. Make sure everywhere is touched by that paper. Like I said, if you use your hands, you're just going to smear it underneath. We want to see all these wrinkles. Okay? So make sure everything's down. Okay. Now, this is great, like I said, for hiding something, or if you want that faux marble or leather look, you're gonna take it up right away. And there you go. Let me move this to the side. Actually, I'm gonna roll this up a little bit. Let me bring this up to you. So see how that left? Look at it left kind of like a leather marble look. Now you could layer this up and let this dry and then do a coat of the gray, and then you can do it again. You can layer all these colors and keep doing the wrinkly look. You can do that. And here's another one that's even easier. I'm gonna do it actually on this French linen over here. Let me slide it this way. I'm gonna do it on the French linen. Here's another option. Let's say you don't have a big dryer bag. I'm shedding all over this piece. There we go. Let's say you don't have a dryer sheet bag. You can use crumpled up paper. You can use newspaper, but I don't recommend using newspaper that, I don't recommend using newspaper. I know a lot of people do, but the ink on some newspapers, the ink can bleed when it gets wet and get on your piece. So I usually recommend sticking with white packing paper, using saran wrap, using bubble wrap. You can get creative with what you're gonna use. Make it a very generous coat on here. The Van Dyke glaze I primarily use for doing techniques. I don't usually just put it on a piece and wipe it back, but I will wipe back the corners so you can see what it looks like. So now you have your crumpled up paper, whether you're using saran wrap, packing paper, any bubble wrap. Now you can just do this. Go along and pull up that glaze. You see what I'm doing? See that texture it's leaving? So glaze is fun for creating texture, and I just keep rolling my bag to a clean side and so if you have a piece that has flaws on it, you can just go along it and create texture that way as well. And that is like a fun leather look. You're gonna let it dry, and you can also highlight the corners with waxes. And I'll show you in just a second. Let me put this off to the side. I'm gonna show wiping back on the edges so you can see how subtle the brown is. Okay, so I need to slide you guys farther this way. There we go. So now I can wipe back this brown. The brown is a gorgeous way to get that aged look, that kind of like grunge look, but have it be very smooth and subtle. Almost like a wax look, but I think it gives a softer, more like eyeshadow. It gives a more smoother contrast, but it's gonna show the details. To see how I'm gonna wipe it back, Van Dyke glaze works great on French linen. Okay, so let me show you close up. See that technique in the middle? See how easy that was? It's gonna take it's gonna take at least an hour to dry, but this technique is gonna hide flaws. But look at the edges. Look at this compared to this. That's the Van Dyke glaze, just in all those details. It tinted my French linen just a little, but it also brought out the details versus this. It's a great option for kitchen cabinets. Now there's the texture with just that sponging technique with plastic. And then here is the frottage. I don't know if you can see that. See how subtle that is? It's not subtle at all, but it does give a cool effect on the black. Okay. And the great thing is you don't have to seal the glazes. Whew, that was a lot. Okay, so hopefully I've inspired you to use the glazes more often. And the fact that if you seal your piece first, once you do your beautiful glaze technique, you don't have to seal it again. You do not have to seal the glazes. That's why I always go and I'll seal my entire piece. And then I go back and do my decorative stuff. And then if I need to seal it again, I can, but you don't have to. I love doing the frottage. Isn't that cool? And look around the edges. And then that little leather look. Okay, let me put this up against the wall real quick. And let me look for questions, because I can't use my laptop because I have no internet, so I can only use my phone. Love how all the water-based products can be combined to create different finishes and colors. That's exactly what, Eileen, this is exactly what the point I try to make on these classes, is that just because one product might not work for a customer, might not give the exact look they're looking for, you can alter it so easily, and it's very, user-friendly. Okay, let me look for questions. I might have to go back on my phone and go back and do this. I am painting sawmill gravy on a waterfall dresser. Need to spunk it up, or maybe paint for a man's dresser. Spunking it up, you can use the glazes for that. You saw how, if you really want a wow factor, that pearlescent glaze, I think is my number one of the glazes to go to. It doesn't really alter the color much, but it just gives that polished finish look that, it just gives it a little wow factor. Okay, I'm looking for question marks. Oh, you finally get to watch it live. Hi, Carla. Okay, good morning. Okay, I'm just looking to see if there's any question marks. Okay, no. Okay, so there we go. That was glazes. Now Wednesday, I'm gonna be doing the waxes. I'll be doing Best Dang Wax and Easy Peasy Wax and Dixie Dirt. That'll be on Wednesday. So if you have any questions, make sure you put them in here. Like I said, I have no internet, so I do have to check from my phone, and I'm using a hotspot card, so I check randomly out throughout the day when I can use my hotspot card. But I will be back Wednesday at 12 o'clock, and we're going to go over Best Dang Wax, best practices when using the Best Dang Wax, and Dixie Dirt and Easy Peasy Spray Wax. So, okay, everybody. And if you're watching this on the replay, make sure you put #replay. Give this video a like or a thumbs up or a heart if you thought this was informative, and if you learned something new. I like to see if someone learned something new on each class. I love it. Okay, and make your own glazes. So you can alter all the glazes. If copper isn't exactly what your customer's looking for, but they kind of wanted that color, spruce it up, add some metallics to it, add some pink to it. Alter it to make it any color you want. So, okay, I'm gonna let you guys go. Love and hugs, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye-bye, everybody.